There has been another horrific incident at a garment factory in Bangladesh. An 8-story building collapsed today.
Officials say numerous others remain trapped in the rubble of the 8-story building outside Dhaka.
Rana Plaza was a garments factory
that consisted of many small supplier factories. So there were thousands of people working in this large building. There was some corruption going on around the construction of this building. It did not meet the legal requirements.
Officials discovered cracks in the building yesterday.
It is considered one of the world's largest mass manufacturing accidents. When the investigation was done, it was found some of the largest retailers here in North America and Canada were sourcing from that factory, either directly or through a subcontracting unit,
prompting an international outcry about improving safety regulations and worker conditions.
Social media, the internet have all raised greater awareness of what's going on.
You cannot hide a story that is happening in Bangladesh or in somewhere. It's getting here in a second.
And people are aghast.
Western retailers must insist on better safety checks, argue workers' rights advocates.
This is not okay. And so I think there's a greater sense of humanity. People want to do the right thing. Our basic thesis is that given an option to purchase a garment produced in an ethical, sustainable manner, that consumers are willing to pay more to do so.
We believe this Ethical Apparel Index tag can be attached to the product.
A consumer can look at that tag, either scan it on their phone, and are assured that in fact the garment was produced in a factory that respected labor and human rights. Our hope is to provide a good housekeeping seal of approval. The manufacturing of garments years ago essentially was outsourced to low-cost countries such as China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. A lot of those garments used to be made here in the United States. A lot of them were made in New York City.
There are several tiers of factories in the apparel supply chain. If you look on the face value of all the tier 1 factories, where the largest apparel and footwear retailer as a direct business contract, you'll probably see some kind of okay labor rights situation. But a lot of these tier 1 factories has a subcontracting unit, meaning I'm a factory owner, I take order from Walmart, H&M, Nike, and through the back door I can pass it to a subcontracting factory which doesn't have a direct relationship with the brand.
The tier 2 suppliers, the suppliers to the supplier, that are often smaller, that's often where you see the most egregious kinds of violations.
And you can go to tier 3, 4, 5. It is probably a hide mill, right? A slaughterhouse, and you'll see a more severe conditions there. And the lower tier you go, it's more complex to connect it with a brand.
You know, as an example, during the Rana Plaza disaster, there were some garments in that building that belonged to major brands that had the brand label on it. Those brands were not even aware that that garment was being constructed in that particular building because it had been subcontracted to one of these smaller suppliers that was operating in an illegal and non-compliant manner. Most of the big brands, Nike, Walmart, Target, they conduct audits of these factories. And the factories realize they have to comply with these audits to be able to get their business. You also get what are called third-party audits. So a brand may hire an auditing company. It's a single auditor. You know, they go in, they spend a day. It's not as rigorous as a brand audit. And then you get a third type of audit, which is a self-assessment. It's about 1,000 questions, and the supplier checks off the questions, and an auditor will go back and review the questions.
We are not trying to create a new measurement scale. We are not trying to create a new audit standard. Rather, we are trying to take all the different audit out there. We are trying to extract those data.
And this is where NC State and our analytics team comes into play, because we're working to create an analytical framework that ingests all of these different audit data and creates an index using machine-based learning, using a set of algorithms that will eventually develop into a single grade representing whatever is going on in that factory. First one is, are they paid the minimum wage?
We at least want to ensure that the workers who are working in apparel factories are paid with the minimum wages, if not the living wages.
Forced labor. There are instances where people will be asked to turn over their passport and will have to work for 3 months. So they're essentially forced to work. Many of the brands and factory owners don't want a union in their factory. Nevertheless, you still need to allow people the freedom to develop a union. They may not establish a union, it still has to be put up to vote, but it's illegal to prevent people from associating together. Overtime, you have to pay people overtime. There's a maximum number of overtime hours per week. You want to make sure that the environment that they're working in has fire extinguishers, it has access to restrooms, a fire escape. Child labor is another category. This is also a tricky one. In some countries, children working is another income stream that can help feed the family. But generally, any child below 14 is not allowed to work. An environment that's free from harassment, and by that we mean, sexual harassment or, bullying.
We are not discriminating a regular female worker versus a pregnant worker. We are not discriminating someone based on race or color or whatever they believe politically or religiously. Oftentimes we see the worker who are working in those factories doesn't have any official contract, so the owner can literally fire them at any moment without any compensation. So if there is a minimum contract put in place to make sure that there is a healthy relationship between the employer and the employee.
With machine-based learning, we can determine whether or not that particular factory is at least minimally compliant with these 9 elements. Some of our early results show that people are willing to pay a little bit more if it's produced in an ethical manner.
If we want to produce a t-shirt ethically or responsibly in an apparel factory in Bangladesh, on average it costs you from 8 to 12 cents. When the product comes all the way to the retail store, it becomes like $1.20, $1.30. It's a little bit more expensive. But I think there are a lot of academic research where they say we can absolutely afford that $1.20, $1.30, and consumers are willing to endorse that, especially the Gen Z and the millennials. They're very interested to endorse a more socially and ethically responsible brand. It's not an initiative which we can operate without the support from the brand, because brands are the one who are making those products and bringing it to the market.
Part of our goal is to have the right conversations and convince people that it's to their benefit and something that will help them expand their market, not shrink it.
Really, our ultimate mission or vision is one day when the consumer are more aware, more educated, and investor communities are also having more information to make a good investment decision, we will be in a world where no brand who doesn't endorse the ethical manufacturing probably will not survive in the market.
At the end of the day, I think this is really an important part of what the Templeton Foundation is trying to achieve as well, is to improve the lot of human beings, to make a better world. And we hope that this effort will play a role in helping to achieve that objective.